jamming it with Paint Your Body. And this is a panel paint job on the hood of a 2010 Volkswagen Passat LB6S, I believe. Winter green or pine green metallic. Either way, I'm spraying sealer right now. This hood's already been wiped down, cleaned off, tacked off, completely prepared. I do have to give a shout out to my boy. He did the body work on this. He did an excellent job, and he's really thorough. And I'm really pleased with the quality of his work, and he makes my life easier. So I have to give a shout out, and I can move on with my job and with my day and get more work done. So thanks to you, man. Let's keep it going. So anyway, so I'm going to finish up this sealer here, and we're going to let this flash for a little bit, but it's a funky color sealer, and I tinted it this way because I've sprayed this color, I can't even count how many times. I've sprayed this color so many times, and this color has a bronze tone to it, or a copper tone, or an undertone. You look at it, it's in there. And what I found over the years is, and spraying this color many times, using different ground coats, regardless of what they call for, this color sealer helps me with my coverage on the top coats. So I'm gonna spray my first coat of base now, and you're gonna see how quickly this covers. Make a couple adjustments on the gun, and let's start rocking here. And as I go, you're gonna see this covers so quickly. And I could see, oh, why didn't you just use a gray or a dark gray? No, you could, and I have. And I picked the color that I did, and it works for me, and it helps me eliminate certain issues. And this is the way I do it, and there's a reason for it. But just look at the coverage that we're getting here, and we're gonna follow this video up at the end with a couple photos of this hood on the car outside, just to show the color match and how well things worked out in the final product. But it's important you find your way, and you see what works and what doesn't work, and you try things, and that's important. And I guess just like kind of a quick passing by, you see that funky color sealer and you think, oh, what's this guy doing? Well, I've used it, and it works for me for a reason, and that's why I do it. So if you you find something works better for you, regardless of the color or the car or how you're doing it, do it. As long as you're not hindering the quality of your work or the production of your work, you're doing good. And that's the name of the game. There's guidelines and there's procedures, but you just got to do what works for you. So that's what's important. So this is the second coat of base now. I'm already halfway through it. A little long talking on a couple other things, but they were important, and I want you people out there to know, or anybody that's just trying to learn or just looking things up just for fun, or if you already know what you're doing, just a different perspective, whatever. But it's important for me to put that information out there. But I'm wrapping up the second coat of base here. It's about the same pace as I was going the first time. They're wet to medium wet. I'd say more a medium wet coat. This is RM Diamond solvent base, so unlike a waterborne or a water-based coat, I'm not going to hammer it on or put it on full wet for the first coat, 2 coats, followed by 1 light coat or drop coat. I'm going to do, depending on the color, 3 medium coats or so, followed by a 4th drop coat or even coat. So I just wanted to give just a round picture of this, just to show real quick. But that was the 2nd coat, so I'm moving into the 3rd coat of base here. Moving a little bit quicker, not quite as wet, but I want to make sure I'm getting my coverage and my color on there. I did seal the whole hood, so I'm not worrying about the individual primer spots as much. But I do want my coverage regardless, because I am panel painting this hood. There are the fenders that are butting up right against it, and there's been work done on this car. This hood has been painted at least one time, the fenders at least one time or 2 times, and honestly it looks to me like it's been done by different people or different places or just at different times. Regardless or irregardless of that, the car is in my hands or my shop's hands at this point. So our goal and our job is to make sure that we get it to look right, regardless of what anybody else has done to it, surrounding what we did or where we worked. So here, this is basically the 4th coat. This is the drop coat or the even coat. And I went over it about 50 to 60% of the way across the hood, and I gave it a quick look, and I wasn't not 100% pleased with what I saw, so I immediately went right back over it. And the reason I did that was because I felt that it needed a little bit more base, even it out a little bit more. And that's why I did it the way I did it. So I'm going to do the same thing on this half of the hood and run right back over it and finish up the base coat finally on this job. And next step, give it a quick look over, make sure the tape or the plastic isn't touching, and what I'm going to do is make sure it's ready for clear coat. And that's the next step after this. Alright, so I have the clear mixed up. In between coats, I'm tacking off the base coat, making sure the panels are clean. You have to do it. If you don't do it, or if you didn't know to do it, you have to do it. That's what you do. It helps to keep everything clean and eliminate time for buffing or other costly procedures finishing the paint job. So this is the first coat of clear, moving pretty quickly, not a full wet coat, making sure I'm getting about a 50% overlap. And right now it's just to get some pretty good, a good amount of clear on there. I'm not looking for the final finish look. This is the first coat. I just want to make sure I'm doing even coats right now. So I did the first half of the hood. I'm going to come back, finish the second half of the hood, and then I'm going to give that some time to flash off, and I'm going to come back with a second coat of clear, and it's going to be pretty much a full wet coat. Alright, so wrapped up the second coat. Give it a quick look. You always want to look over your work, make sure it looks good. If you were a little dry or a little bare on a spot, you're going to want to remember that, so that when you come back the second time around, or the third time, depending on what you're doing or how many coats you're applying. You want to focus on those areas that you might have been a little light or a little dry, and just make sure you apply more clear in those areas or put it on a little heavier or wetter. So this is the second and final coat of clear. I'm doing a full wet coat of clear, and this is going to smooth everything out and give a nice even very smooth finish of clear coat over this hood. And the goal is to achieve the factory finished look that this car came with originally, and to get a nice and smooth even finish. So you know, I'm going a little bit slower, a little bit heavier, a little bit wetter, and that's completely intentional, and that's going to help get the effect that I'm looking for. So you know, as I'm wrapping up this half of the hood, I'm going to come around, make sure I get that front edge really good, and check my hose. There we go. Alright, now we're going to wrap up the second half of the hood, starting a little bit past the 50% mark on the hood. So I'm going a little past where I finished off just to make sure it's even. And I'm going to continue on, not moving very fast, and that's intentional. Like I said, make sure this clear gets laid out nice and smooth. Alright, so wrapping up this second and final coat of clear, give it a quick look. Alright. You know, I just want to look over it. I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to look over it, and I'm going to show you guys. It laid out pretty smooth. I'm pretty pleased with this job. And you know, I'm gonna bake this for a good 30 minutes or so. I think with this clear, it's 20 or 30 minutes at 140 degrees, but nevertheless, this clear can be baked, and I'm gonna bake it. But this is just a quick look at the hood. Immediately upon finishing the second and final coat, you can tell now it's flowed out pretty good, and it looks really nice. Jumping ahead quick now, this is after baking it, untaping it, and pulling it out. That's one angle, and this is another angle, and you can tell the hood matches the fenders really good.